Hey everybody, Matt here. Today's video is about the GameCube. I've worked on very few GameCubes in the past, mostly to replace the optical disc drives with other ones, which may or may not have failed eventually, I'm not too sure. But for my own personal GameCube, this drive has been standing strong. It really stood the test of time. I replaced it with the GCLoader. The GCLoader allows you to load all of your GameCube games right off of an SD card. It's super convenient, very little load times. In this video, I wound up using two GameCubes, mostly because I wanted to get the digital AV out port on this GameCube, only because the shelf for this GameCube is in better shape. So you could skip through about halfway through the video, although I did have a lot of fun trying to figure out how to make the board in here fit inside of here. Drilling holes and making space and all that sort of fun. But if you skip halfway through the video, that's about around the time where the GCLoader install actually happens in here. A good friend of mine named Ben, twitch.tv/bxbenny or bxbennyg1, whichever, I'll include it down below. He's into modding and hacking systems and all sorts of cool stuff like PVMs and RGB this and all sorts of stuff with SCART cables, and he got me really into it. He told me about the GCLoader mod for this thing a couple of months ago. I didn't really think much of it. I was never really a huge fan of GameCube personally. Very few games I played on it. Really not even many of the exclusives I played on it. He got the GCLoader, told me he installed it, and then he told me he bought a second one because he had a feeling he knew I'd want it. So I snagged that one off of him and figured to create a video based on the install process. So let's get started. So this is my main GameCube, but we're not working on one, we're working on two GameCubes. So we're going to start with this one. Taking the board out just to have that port available in the silver GameCube. So we start with a game bit driver and unscrew these 4 screws from each corner. If only the screwdriver worked. A little too tight. Won't fit. But this one will. Take the top off. Thanks again, Ben, for this copy of Melee. You see, it's 3D printed to be the same exact dimensions as the top, so that everything's nice and flush when you put it all together under the lid. So we'll take the front controller board off first. And I'm starting to think, what did I get myself into? Because there's a bug in here. A dead one. We're going to be careful. Unplug that ribbon. And the back panel just comes right off easily. Special port. We'll start by taking out all the screws, going all around the GameCube. And if you notice, there's a screw hiding underneath here, but we can't get to it without first removing the fan. One screw on each side of the fan. Go ahead and unplug the fan for now and set it to the side. And now we can get to these 4 screws. There's 4 more screws right here in the front. And the whole drive assembly just comes out. And to no one's surprise, more bugs. I'm gonna toss these rusty things over to the side. Extreme close-up of bugs. Everything all nice and clean. Even the heatsink. So we need to take out these 6 screws on the heatsink. And after a little bit of struggle, the board pops right out. Let's take a sec to look at the board, just to appreciate it. No other reason. Doing all this just to get this port. So now we're going to go to my main GameCube. Same process to take this one apart. We got to take these 2 flat heads right out. And the Game Boy player pops off. Gunstar Heroes, personal favorite. Same 4 game bits. And let's see what we got in here. Wind Waker. I was using a save game exploit for Wind Waker to play Game Boy games through the Game Boy player in better quality. Let's compare these back panels real quick. As you see, the multi-AV port was shifted over. So I'm going to have to use the back port of that black GameCube on this one. I'm going to start with the fan this time. And just take out every screw once again. Drive assembly pops out. No bugs. Bug free's the way to be, boys and girls. Put that to the side for now. Take these 6 screws out of this one. And you see the differences here between the 2 boards. Not just the AV ports, but also on the newer Platinum GameCube, the power supply, the internal power supply is now on one board instead of a second board. And we see couple of different ports here on the bottom also. At the time, I think I only noticed one of them, the one up there at the top. This here is not here. Take these few screws and remove the RF shield. Same with the other GameCube. And this one reveals the internal power supply. Now the moldings for the shell look exactly the same, at least at first. So I'm just going to transplant the internal power supply right on over. Get these 4 screws back in. And I just wanted to test things out with the RF shield. But then I realized I was using the wrong one. So I have to use that old rusty one. Black GameCube definitely had some water damage, but it still works. And at this point I realized that I was missing something else. This port had nowhere to go. So of course, I had to improvise. I couldn't move that hole over, so I removed the internal power supply, grabbed the Sharpie, and made an outline of space to cut out. Made it a little bit bigger just to make sure that I was making enough room. It's going to be right around here. And of course all the other pieces fall out because I forgot to take them out. And let's get drilling. This couldn't just be easy, right guys? Because of course, even as I'm drilling, my drill dies. So once again I had to improvise using my rotary tool with the same drill bit on top. And that made things go much smoother rather than waiting to charge my drill. Words of wisdom: don't buy a wireless drill. Took out big chunks of plastic with my X-Acto knife. But we still got some more room to make in there. I then switched to a smoother tip made some more room and softened things up a little bit around the edges. A little bit of cleanup with the X-Acto, and things look good to me. Let's see if it fits. Success. Cover it up, and where did it go? Everything's nice and flush. No need to make any more space for anything else. So, onward we go. Get all these metal pieces and plates back in. The internal power supply, the correct RF shield. Screw in the RF shield. Yeah, it's not going anywhere. There's 6 screws for the heatsink in place. And next, we remove the drive from this upper RF shield. This is going to need a little cleaning too. But first, quick comparison of the upper RF shields between the two systems for the AV ports. You see there. And now let's take a look at the GCLoader. This is what makes all the magic happen. This needs to plug in here, like so. In terms of position, 1, 2, 3 screw holes here. 1, 2, 3 screw holes here. We start by removing these 3 little yellow protector thingies. Flip the RF shield over and get these 3 screws in place. Next, we plug in the SD card extender. Make sure that's in there good. And luckily this is a flexible ribbon. We can just turn this around 180. And this needs to be mounted to this RF shield also. There are 4 screw holes for this. But this 4th one's a little bit off, so I'm not screwing that one in. And it's not going anywhere anyway. Next, we plug in the GCLoader to the main board. Not so fast, Matty boy. We gotta get these screws in place first. So once these 4 screws are in, and that wire is tucked nice out of the way, we're ready to install the fan. And those 2 screws. 1, 2, 3. Let's get these 2 sets of long screws in. And continue with every other screw. Plug in the fan assembly. And tuck the wire in there. There's a little inlet in there for it. These guys look happy. Plug this ribbon back where it needs to go. What do you say, guys? Are you happy to be home? I'll take that as a yes. So the front is on. Let's get the back plate on there. And now the top, but gotta hold on to the front panel while sliding the top in place. You see that hole I drilled out earlier, and get these 4 game bit screws back in place. These 2 panels say one last goodbye. And finally, the Game Boy player. No gaps. Guess that looks like a face too, huh? And now we head over to the computer. But wait, I forgot all these screws? So from the links below, the first thing you're going to need is Swiss GC from GitHub. So from that page on the right side, if you click on releases, latest right there, click on swiss.7z and it'll download. Next, you need the GCLoader firmware. Just click on the GCLoader.dol file and that'll download. Next, you need FAT32 format from Ridge Crop. Click on the picture. Keep it. And according to this page, the GCLoader page, you need that tool to format a drive that is larger than 32 gigabytes. So in my case, I'm using a 64 gig card. So insert the SD card, right click on it, and go to Properties, and you see my card by default is formatted as exFAT. So right click on the SD card, hit format, change the file system to NTFS, keep everything as is, click start, little warning message, click OK, and when that's done, click OK. Hit close, head over to your downloads, and run that GUI format.exe file. Confirm that you got the right drive selected. As you see there on the left, F is correct. I'm going to go ahead and rename this one GC. Click start. Little warning message again, click OK. And that's done. So now you can right click on the SD card just to make sure, hit properties, and you see here it was successfully formatted. So now you're going to right click, create a new folder in the SD card, name it firmware or FW, head into that folder. Now from your downloads folder, drag over that GCLoader.dol file and then go back up one folder. Head over to your downloads folder again and extract Swiss. Go inside of that folder, and then in the ISO folder there are 3 files, so you need to select the one according to your region. I'm in the US, so I will choose NTSCU and drag that file over to the SD card. Once it's there, it needs to be renamed boot.iso. And now you can create a new folder for your 100% completely legal games. Head over to your GameCube ISO files and drag them into the games folder. So now that the games are copied, we can go ahead and eject the SD card. And let's head over to the GameCube. So as soon as you turn the GameCube on, it's going to boot straight into Swiss. That's how we know everything went smooth. So before installing the firmware update, I'm going to test out one of my all-time favorite games, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. And you'll see here how fast the load times are. I'm just skipping through those. But look at that little eyeball down at the left, and it's gone. The blink of an eye. Hope you guys don't mind. I'm going to have me a quick run real quick. Again, you see that fast loading that had to be about 2 seconds. So at this point, I turned off the GameCube, turned it back on, went into that FW folder, and loaded that GCLoader.dol file. Press A to start the update. And then you'll be prompted to turn the GameCube off and then on again. Another cool thing you could do is play Game Boy Advance or Game Boy games on here through the Game Boy player using a software called Game Boy Interface. I'll leave a link for that below too. Gives you more options and definitely, from what I can see, better color than the stock Game Boy player does. This is especially helpful if you don't have a Game Boy player disc, but do have a Game Boy player. The disc is obsolete at this point. So as you see here, the GCLoader 3D printed bracket has slots for extra SD cards. So if you have a few small cards, you can just store them in there. I feel like they thought of everything with this. So this mod is done. So overall for the GCLoader, the install wasn't too bad. You just gotta unscrew a whole bunch of stuff. That's why I try to speed up that process. It's like you unscrew one screw, you've unscrewed them all. Same thing each time. Having little to no load times on the GameCube now will probably get me to play some more of it, especially when I get an adapter to hook this up to my HD TV. I'm slowly gravitating away from PVMs and CRTs. I don't know, I'm just finding myself recently losing interest in them. I'm still gonna keep this little guy. I have a 13-inch PVM also in my attic, just sitting up there in the heat now. So tell me your thoughts of the GCLoader. Once again, I do think it's worth it. I think it's about $115 total for the GCLoader board itself and the 3D printed bracket with the SD card extension. Having little to no load times is just incredible. I can't stress that enough. It's really cool. Once again, there's no soldering involved, so it's pretty straightforward. You just gotta have a steady hand to unscrew, like, I don't know, 50 screws or so. I never actually took full count. I'm exaggerating. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm gonna go pack this up and store it because never know when I'm gonna need it in the future. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.